You're listening to Telecast PH. The number of new SaaS companies, both B2B and B2C, skyrocketed in 2024, leading to the need for each of those companies to build out a brand new customer support system. And for those companies experiencing growth in 2024, customer support needs are also growing rapidly. In this episode of Telecast PH, we explore building a support team from the ground up and also keeping intact the human-centric approach to support as the team scales. And we'll get into it right after this. Hello all, and welcome back to another episode of Telecast PH. I'm Jeff Thompson, your host, Director of Client Solutions here at Telework PH, and the voice of offshore outsourcing to the Philippines. Thank you so much for joining. Now, building that new support function can be more than a challenge. It can be a downright conundrum. Even for support leaders with many years of experience, each company has their unique customer base, and more importantly, their unique product or service. Processes from the start can be very different every single time. Now, I had a conversation with Angelica Rosen, who found herself in that very situation. As a former educator, she took on a position with NovoEd as head of their support where there wasn't one previously. And as the company grew, she was tasked with growing the support team, processes, functions, and she gained a lot of unique and valuable insights along the way, which she was happy to share with us. So if you're now building a support team for a new company or growing that support team to match company growth, you'll definitely want to listen to what Angelica has to offer. But as always, before we get into it, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's podcast, Telework PH, a premier and award-winning BPO here in the Philippines. Telework PH, we build your team, you get the benefit. To find out more about how we can help you transform your support game, or if you're looking for a highly skilled virtual assistant in any area of your business, all you got to do is hop on over to www.teleworkph.com or hit me up on LinkedIn. Just search Jeff Thompson, Director of Client Solutions and the voice of offshore outsourcing. Now let's get into the conversation with Angelica. Hello all, and welcome back to Telecast PH. Today we have Angelica Rosen, and we're going to be talking about building support from scratch and keeping the human in the loop, the human approach. Angelica, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. This is really an honor to have you. I took a look at your LinkedIn, and you have a lot of experience, so I know that you're going to have a lot to offer our listeners. So right away, do you want to just go ahead and jump in and tell us about yourself and your experiences and your role with the company?
Absolutely. So I'm the Senior Manager of Customer Support at NovoEd, and we have an online learning platform that offers kind of a unique and collaborative experience for learners. So our customers are primarily enterprises and executive training firms. And when they want to deliver highly impactful training programs to their audiences, they can do so on our platform. And we pride ourselves in the high volume of relationship building that's happening on our platform, kind of between peers, course facilitators, mentors, et cetera. So it really helps make that learning stick for those learners. And our support team, is focused on providing support to the administrative users. So not so much those end users, those learners, but those who are creating those experiences on our platform. And prior to NovoEd, I kind of had a hybrid role that was part implementation, part success, part support at a very small K-12 ed tech company. And then for the first half of my career, I was a classroom teacher and STEM coordinator. So education is very much a part of my being. And when I joined NovoEd in 2020, the support function was very much in its infancy. So I think we had one specialist who had started earlier in that year, and then another specialist and myself joined in May of that year. And so the three of us were just trying to figure it out and keep up with the flow of requests while trying to establish ourselves as a team. So we had all reported to the VP of customer experience at that time, in addition to two other teams. And so about 6 or 7 months later, she identified that there needed to be a lead to the support team. And so she promoted me to manage the team.
And so you built that from the ground up, basically, from there, huh?
Yes. So even though I wasn't part of the recruiting and hiring process for the other two, we were very much a new team. So at the time, our customer success team, they were tasked with providing technical support as well as success relationships with the customers. So they were very much excited and relieved to have join. But it was very much an infant. We were just trying to figure ourselves out, figure out our role, and define our role within the organization. And so that was a big feat. But in retrospect, it's like, gosh, that was so long ago. Things are running so smoothly now, uh, which is great.
Running support and success from the same team is challenging. It's because one is, I don't want to say reactive, but in a way, one is inbound, the other is outbound. So there is a lot of confusion and cross laps that can happen. When you're wearing those two hats, support and for success. I took a look at your LinkedIn earlier, and I like what you said here, where you create meaningful interactions with customers focused on resolution, passionate about building strong customer-centric communication and expectations across the organization to improve effectiveness and efficiency. So based on what you just said, do you think that your background in education helped you create these meaningful interactions and, being focused on resolutions and, building those strong relationships?
Absolutely. It's funny because at NovaWed, a lot of us are former educators, and so we've got kind of this communal understanding of being able to actively listen to students, which now are our customers, right, and each
Right.
other. And so communication piece is really important internally. And then when we are working with customers, a lot of first few months, that first year of being at NovaWed and establishing the support function, it was spent on seeing how things were working and then identifying those gaps. And a lot of times things were not working because those communication streams weren't being effective. And so that played a big part in developing our teams and developing those work streams cross-functionally. A lot of, and it still happens, departments and teams can become, of course, siloed, but then we all kind of make it an important practice that we are working on cross-functional projects together, that we are communicating, we have processes that we've built and we put in place along the way to really strengthen those relationships with each other cross-functionally. And especially with the success team, we work very closely with them. At the time, we work in Slack. So at the time, all of our customer support communications were happening in the same channel with all of our CSMs. And somehow it dawned on me, like, why are we not just building out direct lines with each of our CSMs? So stuff like that, where we're kind of identifying, okay, where can we improve? Where can we take energy and move it into another spot so that we are being more efficient? That was really important.
I would have to say it is. I mean, because the way it sounds is it was a jumbled mess maybe in the beginning, like everything being in one place, and then separating that out and filtering it out. When you're creating that support function from the ground up, like you did, what other unconventional or counterintuitive strategies did you find most effective?
Yeah, I thought about this, and we always think, or we always hear, the customer is always right. That's always the common saying. But I would dare to say that the customer is not always right. They just might not be able to communicate their needs. And so with that, it was important for us to be able to pinpoint what it is that the customer is actually trying to tell us. And that takes me back to teaching, right? So like, this student may not behaving, they might not be behaving, and it's probably my own kid. And so, like, what are they actually trying to tell us? What is going wrong? And so that also comes to play, like being able to pick up those different cues for telling us, hey, okay, this is what the problem actually is, but the customer may not be able to communicate with us on that. So that is something that is probably counterintuitive when it comes to what we always hear in the industry. The customer is always right, but I dare to say they're not always right. They just need help communicating what they really need.
Yeah, I can attest to that because I'm a customer too at, at other places, and I'm not always right. The thing about it with support, you learn to use a certain jargon, I guess you would say, and what you call different, aspects of, the product or the service, and the customer may not know that. So they
Mm-hmm.
may in their head associate it with a totally different term, and you just don't understand, and I like what you said there because then you got to kind of break it down, go through the layers and say, what are you really saying here? Because what you're saying isn't right. Okay. So, but you're still frustrated, you're still upset, and there's still an issue. So you have to like kind of crack open, exactly the words that they're using and almost break it down and interpret that into something a little bit more, I guess you should say, understandable, huh?
Exactly. Last week, I had a customer support interaction with a vendor in my own personal use,
Mhm.
and I could see there was a bug in the software in the application, and I was clicking a button and it was not doing what it was said it was supposed to do. And I had reached out. They had a chat channel and they had a live phone line, and I was in the middle of things, so I just went through chat and I communicated what I saw in a very matter of fact, this is the app I opened, these are the steps, I had my repro steps for the customer support agent, and they were not picking up what I was trying to communicate. And I'm like, they're not understanding what I'm trying to tell them. And I was very frustrated. And I said, can you hand me to another support agent? And they said, you can call. So I ended up stopping what I was doing. I ended up calling them, and I had a live person on the line with me, and I communicated the same things again. And still, they were not kind of understanding what I was trying to say. They were giving me the same responses as the chat agent. And I finally said, hey, I work in customer support for a SaaS
Right.
company, and I think this is a bug in your software, because I'm going to delete something. They're reappearing after I delete, and they ended up going back and checking with their engineering team and identified, actually, yes, this is in fact a bug. So I was very frustrated. So I felt that frustration that a lot of customers feel when they're trying to get support for something. And so that's just an experience that I hold closely whenever I have poor experiences with customer support, because I don't think that they were trained in that. And I think it's really important that we as leaders in support are training our agents to identify those cues of frustration.
And it's even extra frustrating being a support leader, you know, and knowing what's actually going on, in the background. I know that, I've worked the phones obviously, and I know when I'm on the support line or I'm getting blown off or I'm getting, set aside, for later. I know because I know the words that they're using and I know what's going on. So that's a little bit extra. It's kind of like, I was also when I was in America, I was a chef for 20 years. So going into a restaurant, even to this day, I'm automatically critiquing everything, from the get go. I don't mean to, you know what I mean? It's just an automatic thing. So you had mentioned, circling back, you had mentioned that, when you started, there was just a handful of you. And obviously you say, you've grown from there and you've implemented processes and everything else. So how do you ensure that the human first approach didn't get diluted as, the company scales and the support team scales and processes inevitably become, more automatic and automated?
That's a great question. And it's something that a lot of us are battling in support, especially in this quote unquote new age of AI, right? That's our hot, our hot
Right. Yeah.
term. And I think it's important to dial it back and kind of define our approach to automation in AI and think, how are we leveraging these tools? For our team, our approach is to leverage automation and AI in a way that allows our agents to drill down into the more complex issues. Right? Our platform is really complex. We've got bi-weekly releases, new features, new enhancements all of the time. And so it's important that our team members are able to use AI insights to identify issues. And even when we are utilizing these tools, there's always this human element that needs to be involved in the service that we're providing to our customers. I don't want to replace our staff with bots, but bots can handle the simple stuff, password resets. That's a bot thing, simple things, but we need to use these tools as tools. I think our customers kind of really appreciate those face-to-face interactions that we have with them. If they're running into complex issues, we will jump on a Zoom call with them. And so as we're scaling, those tools can handle the simple stuff, and we can still have the time to handle the complicated, more complex things with our customers face to face. And they really appreciate that interaction that they have with our team. And they voice that appreciation constantly, especially to our leadership. So that's something that we kind of pride ourselves on, and that's something that we want to still keep at the core of what we do, even as we scale.
That's excellent. And, I agree with you. When chatbots first started coming out, and especially with AI, ChatGPT, me being an old guy, I was I was against it. I was like, no, we just need to keep humans, and I don't want to answer or get answered by a bot. But then, being an old guy who forgets his passwords to certain things quite a bit, it is so much easier to have a bot tell me do this, and this. Okay, great. Boom. Password reset, done. Rather than waiting in a queue, hopping online, into a call with somebody, with a support agent to, teach me or show me how to reset my password to help me do that. So yeah, the simpler things for, how to reset your password, how do I log in, whatever, can definitely be handled by chatbots. And that does free up the support agents to give that, to spend more time giving those human interactions for the, more complex issues. I absolutely agree with that. So let's be a little bit transparent here, if you don't mind, because, everything, with your experience, you definitely can help some people that have been in your situation that you were in like a few years ago. Have you ever made a strategic mistake, in the early days while you were setting up the customer support? And what did you learn from it? And how would you approach it differently now?
I love this question. I saw this and I was trying to think through those early years. My memory's not as great as it used to be. But one that sticks out was when we were still trying to define our role within the company's operations. Our product team is absolutely fantastic. However, the release process often left customer-facing teams kind of scrambling at the last minute to keep up with new releases. And part of the support team's responsibilities is to create these knowledge-based articles for our customers. And so there was a release that happened. We weren't prepared for it. And so early on, I was kind of frustrated with this. We weren't ready to go. And so I had voiced this frustration on Slack for many of our team members to see across the organization. And it was kind of more of a forceful demand of needing X amount of notification time. And so in retrospect, I should have approached our head of product directly to come up with a solution together, rather than having a really emotional reaction to the situation.
That would have been embarrassing, huh?
Yes. No one really said anything about it, but I look back and it's like one of those cringe moments where you're like, oh, I forgot I did that. That I could have done better there.
One of those memories that just pops in your head when you're trying to sleep.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
oh man, why? I hope nobody thinks about that anymore. I know.
Yes.
I mean, I've been there. When I was first started building my first customer support team, that's 8 years ago, I believe it was. Man, I made a lot of mistakes. They gave me 2 products to support, which was fine. But then I tried to put them together. I tried to do things, and yeah, it just led to a lot of frustration on my end. So those mistakes, they happen early on. What's important is that you learn from them and you bounce back, and somebody else can learn from it, from your experience, when you can sit back and laugh about it like we are now. Right.
Exactly.
So going back to you have your background in education, so this is something that I think would be valuable coming from you. Is what's your take on the role of empathy in the customer support training, and can it be taught, or is it something that you think you need to hire, from the outset?
That's an interesting question. I think that using empathetic language can be taught.
Hmm.
If you're interacting maybe via chat with a live agent, they will give you, you could tell, right, that they're copying and pasting
Right.
responses. And so your customers can see right through it. I think that, yes, you can use empathetic language, copy, paste it, but to really have a quality relationship with customers, especially for us, because we're interacting with the same exact people repeatedly throughout the year, it's important that it is kind of a part of your being. I've actually not thought about screening candidates for empathic traits, but it's something that I kind of just pick up, right? As you're interacting with candidates, it's something that you pay attention to, maybe unconsciously, but I think that it's important to be able to empathize with your customers, especially when they're having negative experiences with your product. A lot of times, that's the only reason why they're reaching out to support is because they're having a negative experience. So we want to make sure that they feel that they're being heard and that we really have their success as part of our purpose, our mission when we're interacting with them.
And you can always tell down the road too, after you've hired them, when you will
Mhm.
come across the agents that are reaching out to like every department, like, hey, I got this guy here, or I've got this woman here, and she's having this issue, and how can we help her? You know what I mean? The ones that are really, striving to help the people
Mhm.
that they're taking care of, or the case that they're handling, even if they know it could ruffle some feathers, or even if they know that they're bothering people, in other departments. So you know that person is feeling that empathy. They're in that person's shoes. They're like, wow, this person is having a difficult time, rather than the
Yes.
ones that they're just not feeling it. And I really love your answer. You're right. You can use empathetic language, as a template or whatever, and it's always, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, and that seems to be the canned go-to phrase every time you log into support or you ask support. I've used it myself. I apologize for the inconvenience. Sometimes it's more than an inconvenience. Sometimes it's a downright stopper. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, I think hiring people that are empathetic or have those kind of soft skill qualities, you can I think you could probably teach them to a degree, but if they're just not feeling it, they're just not feeling it. I mean, maybe this isn't
Right.
a position for them. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So,
exactly. And I would say that I lucked out in that our team,
mhm.
uh, I've got some fabulous members on our team who luckily are very empathetic with our customers. Yeah.
Well, educators, I think it's the same along the same lines. I think back to a lot of my teachers that I had growing up, through grade school, high school, even up into college, and they were all very empathetic. If you were not even so much myself, but if you have students that are struggling or going through a rough time, they feel that, and they want to help. So I think that's where your background in education comes into play. But let's take that back. Maybe you went into education and you went into this role because you have that empathetic soul.
Yeah. I've not thought about that, but I think so. I think that's true.
So, what is your philosophy for handling the difficult customers, and how does that shape your approach when you're building the team, which goes along lines of what we were just talking about, hiring with empathy?
hmm Definitely, I would say teamwork. Teamwork is essential here. Difficult customers, let me preface this by saying difficult customers are really rare at NovaWed.
Mm.
We've got pretty great relationship with our customers, and many of them know us by first name. And so we truly have the best customers. However, in those rare instances where a customer may be difficult, and I mentioned this earlier, I think it's important for our agents to be cognizant of those signs of frustration. We're conversing with them via email, and there are now several interactions back and forth. let's get on a call with the customer. If we're on a call with the customer and they're quote unquote being difficult, let's try to get another team member on the call too, to maybe pick up that information that they're trying to communicate with us. Let's get as much information up front as we can and reassure them that we're going to follow up with them if we're not able to solve their issues right then and there on a live call. So I think customers who are being difficult are doing so because they're just frustrated. They're trying to communicate something to us and we're not understanding. And so they feel that block. They feel like they're hitting a wall. And so it's important for our team to be detectives in sifting through that communication to get to the heart of the matter. And so as we were building our support team, it's important for us. It was important then, and it still is for us to share insights on those signs of frustration and that we're open with each other when we are in need of backup. And I've told my team over and over again, like, it's okay not to be able to resolve something on a live call with a customer. Let them know, be transparent with them. I don't have the answer, but let me collect as much information as I can now, and let me follow up with you. And that might seem like a frustrating experience for customers, but because we follow up with them and we're in the habit of following up with them, they understand that, yes, we are truly trying to help resolve their issues. We just not be able to do that live on a call. We might need to get engineers involved, etc. And so being transparent, having that collaboration between our team members to be able to be a backup QB, if you say, and being detectives in looking out for those signs of frustration. I think those are really important, were really important, and are still important as we are continuing to shape our support team.
I like the fact that you have the Zoom calls. Not a lot of SaaS companies that I know of actually have that experience for their customers. And it is important because you can read body language. A lot of stuff can get misinterpreted through text or live chat or email. And even support agents, the best support agents, everybody has bad days. Everybody has, where they're just taking things just a little bit heavier than they would have yesterday or whatever. And so things can be misconstrued. So hopping in that Zoom, seeing somebody's, body language, the inflections in their voices and everything else, and you're able to speak to them and maybe diffuse that a little bit more. And you're right. I always used to tell my team, if you don't know, just say you don't know. Say, hey, look, you know what? I don't know. I say it. I've been doing, sales for Telework PH for quite a few years now, and I still get questions where I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I have no clue. Let me find out for you. It's really just that simple, and I think customers will appreciate that more than you trying to double talk them or give them some sort of push off or pushback of an answer that they can't do anything with. But to say, hey, I don't have my ego's small enough to where I can say I don't know. I'm humble enough to say I don't know, and I'll get you the answer.
Exactly. Yeah. Our customers really appreciate that face-to-face time that they're getting with our team members. And that, again, is something that I don't want to give up as we scale. Right? That is really important. And it gives us perspective. They're able to screen share with us. They're able to talk through the issues live with us. And so it's important as part of our model to continue those live Zoom calls with our customers.
So when you were building the team, what role did customer feedback play in shaping the evolution of that team when you were just getting started?
Yeah. So customer feedback is essential, right? When I joined in 2020, our CSAT rate, all support functions have importance set on their CSAT rates, but our customer satisfaction rate was at 94.1%, which was okay. I checked this morning and we are sitting at 99.1% for the year.
Nice.
Yeah. So we really pride ourselves in maintaining this high rate of customer satisfaction. And it's not because of the actual number. I think we have a lot more, or we get a lot more value from open-ended questions. We ask them, how was it? Let us know, leave us suggestions. So on those occasions where we may receive negative feedback, which it happens, we will drill into it. So we're running root cause analyses of where things may have gone wrong for these tickets. Sometimes it's out of our control. So that's something we could have done anything differently about. But for those causes that are in our control, we have made it a practice for us early on that we started this, but we have made it a practice into building those improvements in our processes, in our knowledge management. And so it's been important that we're building that practice into what we do. I would say it's rare, but it happens. And so we there's even more emphasis on needing to make improvements when we get negative feedback.
And so that's how you've leveraged it, to not become, too reactive, but to
Mhm.
actually anticipate some of the questions or some of the issues that might be coming in.
Yeah, and we'll update our knowledge base articles as well internally. Our customer success teams, our solutions consultants, kind of all across the board, they know that, or they one rely on our knowledge base to give them answers. They might see something that is wrong, or they might see something that may be missing, or that maybe came their way and it's not included in the knowledge base articles. So they'll give us suggestions. We are open to customer and internal feedback along the way. It's important for us to keep up with, our product that's evolving and changing all of the time. And so making sure that we've got all of the information up front for everybody is important.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It is extremely important, especially in the early days when you're building that support team. It's better than take it or leave it. This is the way we do it. This is the way it is. Take it or leave it. But when customers say, hey, this would be better, or this is the experience I had, can you change it? Yes, we can. Thank you. You can't change what you don't know is wrong. If somebody's not telling you, hey, I didn't like the way this was done. This is, it was more frustrating. This was the roundabout way for me, blah, blah, blah. Then yeah, you definitely can build on that, leverage that feedback, and just make it better for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So how do you prioritize? And I think that this is something that would be extremely valuable for some of our listeners who are in the same situation, like I said, that you were years ago, who are just building their team. How do you prioritize building customer loyalty versus just solving problems when you're establishing a support function from scratch?
So this is an interesting question. I think customers are loyal to us because we are solving their problems. Early on, it's important that you've got a customer ticket cycle established and that you have follow-up practices in place. You want to give customers a solid experience at the very beginning so that they are building that level of trust with you. They know what to expect from you, and they know that you have their needs at the forefront of your mind. And so these experiences cumulatively will lead to customer loyalty.
Excellent. So moving on, let's circle back to building that team from scratch, like we were talking about. So, how do you identify the right kind of leadership for a newly built customer support function? And what traits do you find are non-negotiable? Now, I know we talked about soft skills and empathy, but beyond that, what do you think is some of the traits or skills that are just non-negotiable when you have leadership for your support team?
So I would say as you're building out a new customer support function, it's important to first get to know your organization if you're new to the organization. What are the goals of the organization? What are their values? How are things currently functioning? And then get to know your team. What are their natural workflows? What are their strengths? What motivates them? And I think considering those two things, your organization and your team, that will help you tailor your leadership. I feel it's important to have a framework of processes and practices. However, be open to making adjustments to that framework. No two companies are the same. So if you were leading a customer support function at one company, it may not work. That same framework may not work in your new company. So just being open to making adjustments along the way. And then for non-negotiables, I feel for both leaders and contributors on the team, non-negotiables would be communication skills. And by that, I mean both actively listening and then putting out your communication. And then also having a customer centric mindset. So focusing on the customer experience And third, having a collaborative mindset. So being able to share insights with one another, being able to walk through tickets and problem solve together if you need
Mhm.
to have a partner in that process. And then fourth, problem solving skills. Problem solving skills, it's funny, we teach them in school as teachers. And
Mhm.
it's funny to see how that will translate then into the workplace. It's funny because they're the same. Things that my 11-year-old are working on in in projects are going to be the same problem solving skills that my team needs as they're solving customer issues.
I think somewhere along the way we lose that, from the school days
Mhm.
into our adulthood. I like what you said there about when you go from one company to the next, they might do things differently. And that made me think that we're in the BPO industry, and a lot of support directors that I speak to are almost looking for that cookie cutter solution that we are going to provide everything for them for their support. We can do that. However, our solutions are more, are tailor fit. We hire specifically for a specific account based on those requirements, much like what you listed here. So it's like going from one company to the next. Yeah, the solutions may be different than what you're used to. You could work at one company for 10, 12 years and decide you want to try something else. You get a better offer or whatever. And you go over to the next company and say, this is what we do. And are you crazy? Can well, let's hear what you have to say. But what I'm saying, not every company is going to be the same with their approach to customers, because it's different products, different services, different cultures, and different environments all the way around.
Exactly.
So, in your experience, how do you navigate the clash? And it is a clash in a lot of companies. I don't know about NovoEd, but between customer support as a cost center versus a potential driver of revenue growth.
So our team is really small, but I
Mhm.
think our leadership sees customer support as a factor in revenue growth. So there isn't much of a clash at all at NovoEd. Although, we ourselves are not driving those renewals and expansions, our customers will flat out broadcast that they appreciate the relationship and the service that our team, as well as our support team and account executive team, et cetera, but they will name us by first name a lot of the times to our leadership. And I don't know of many other customer bases that will do that in SaaS. And so I think it's not really a clash, but it is more of we are recognizing that although support is not, signing the dotted line, having those renewals and expansions as part of our realm of responsibilities, there's still this, factor that this correlation between the services that they receive from our team and the bottom line when it comes to renewals and expansions.
Exactly. I 100% agree. Being a support guy myself, that a lot of companies are not like NovoEd. They see support as a drain on the expenses, as a just a flat cost center. But when it comes to customer retention, you have to look at your customer acquisition costs. Like, how much does it cost to get a brand new customer? Okay.
Mhm.
And then how much is it really going to cost to retain that customer? Because one support interaction can retain a customer for years. They'll come along and I'll say, "Wow, you know what? I had an issue, but I called support and they were on it and took care of the issue, and I haven't had an issue since." And you're right. Like I always say, they have, customers these days have this huge megaphone called social media, where they can just get on and they will, and they do. And everybody's looking for content, and they will, tell their experiences, explain their experiences to that. So I think that that's one of the best ways that customer support is or acts as a revenue driving center is through those interactions and customer retention, plain and simple.
Definitely, definitely. I think a lot of times we are not always considered in that process. But if you think about it, your customers are interacting with customer support more than any other team. typically within your organization. So it's important that there is a focus on support and also in making sure that your support agents are growing professionally, and growing their skills. And so I think it's not something that is always heavily considered, but it is a factor a lot of the times in the decisions that our customers are making.
100% agree. So if you could instill just one core value or principle into a new support team that will endure no matter how big the company gets, what would that be?
Great question. It's a big question.
It
I would
is.
say I would say communication. Communication is essential. So being an excellent communicator, no matter the size of the company, is going to continuously take you far. Being able to actively listen and succinctly communicate is vital. Those two are really important in customer support. We want to make sure that we are hearing the customers and that we are able to communicate back what the resolution is to their issue. And being transparent in that communication is also important. So yeah, I would say communication is the key, and it's the key to a lot of things in life.
Oh, it really is. And you're right. I mean, as you expand and as you grow, communicating not only with the customers, but internally, like, hey, you know what? We're growing. We need this. We need more people. We need a better CRM. We need something, to make sure that, the customer experience, the customer journey remains the same, if not improved, over time as the company grows. Because a lot of times as companies grow, they're so focused on that growth, which is good, but they forget about, or I shouldn't say forget about, but they kind of push aside the customer experience and not taking into account that, they might not be getting the same hands-on or valued care that they were getting in the beginning when you had a lot more resources. So as the company, expands and resources become a little bit thinner, then customers may feel that and may impact their experience or their journey. So being able to communicate that, through the open channels, all the way up to the executives, to let them know, hey, our customers might be suffering. Let's take a look at that. So that's an excellent answer. So we are running out of time. We're coming to the end. Angelica, do you want to just give us any last thoughts for any support teams, or support leaders that are building new teams? Any advice that you want to give them?
Yeah. I would say take the time to get to know people. Take the time to recognize that not everything is going to be resolved in one day. Things take time. So just being cognizant of that hopefully is helpful to them.
Beautiful. I love it. Angelica, thank you so much for being here. And I hope to maybe have you back again sometime, and we'll have a catch-up session.
Thanks so much. I would love that.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye.
And that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Telecast PH. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Jeff Thompson, and if you're ready to explore what offshore outsourcing can do for you with a remote team or a virtual assistant for your business, check us out at www.teleworkph.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. And until then, may the force be with you.